Today we're starting on the legendary Jaguar E-Type. As you can see, it needs a little work. Let's get closer and check the rust situation.
All right, everyone, as you can see, this hood is completely covered. We've got deep pitting and layers of oxidation we need to address today. Look what we finally got, boys. This is the legendary E-Type, pulled straight from that field, and we're bringing it back to the shop right now. As you can see, the time lapse is really moving now. We're almost secured on the trailer, just a few more feet to go before we hit the stopper. With the winch connected, we're slowly rolling her down. Almost there, just gotta clear the ramp and push her inside. Look at this E-Type. It's rough, completely covered in rust, but we're gonna bring it back to life. This is where the real work begins. Look at this, guys. This is exactly what we didn't want to see. This rust is deep, right through the hood. We're gonna have to cut this section out. All right, guys, we're starting with the pressure wash. Check out how satisfying this is as the high pressure clears the grime. All right, check out the before and after on this wire wheel. It took some serious scrubbing, but look at that shine now. Look at the state of this rust. We're doing a time lapse now to get these old seats ripped out. This one is definitely putting up a fight. All right, guys, look at this. We knew the floorboards were bad, but wow, that is a serious amount of rust we're dealing with here. So the goal here is to carefully remove each gauge without damaging the housing. As you can see in the time, look at how seized this thing is. Had to really put some muscle into it, but we finally got the front bumper off. And there we have it. The key is to use the suction cups evenly and slowly break that old seal. Now we can prep for the new one. Once the bolts are loose, you can gently pull the assembly forward and then reach back to disconnect the main harness clip right here. That is some used oil right there. So the key here is making sure these chains are seated properly on the block. You don't want any slipping once the weight is on it. Now let's get the hoist connected. As you can see, this block is filthy. We're rolling it outside now to give it a good pressure wash before we crack it open.
The first step is to grab a marker and clearly outline the rusted sections. We need to be thorough to ensure we catch all the corrosion on this floor pan.
That does it for the cutting. The key to blocking this out is long, steady strokes. We're just running the hand over the surface, making sure there are no high spots left from the sanding. Now for the second layer. You want to press it firmly into those low spots and make sure you get a nice smooth finish over the rust. Get the dust off the old coronet. Look at that metal underneath.
The next step is masking off the windows and trim. This takes time, so we'll speed it up, but you can see the detail required to get it right before we lay down the primer.
Soak it really well with the degreaser first, let it sit for a second, then just take your tack cloth and wipe firmly to reveal that clean metal underneath. Once it's stirred thoroughly, slowly pour the mixture into your HVLP sprayer like this, making sure to catch any drips. All right, guys, so I'm just running my hand over this 2K primer. I can feel a few high spots right here that we need to address before paint.
So we're just block sanding the entire panel. The black guide coat highlights the areas that still need work.
All right, guys, we just finished sanding the hood down to 320 grit. Now we're just rinsing it off before we lay down the sealer. We're using the bright yellow base coat today. Pour it in slowly, then give it a quick swirl before we lock it onto the sprayer. We're laying down the first wet coat now. As you can see, the HVLP gun is giving us great coverage on this fender.
As you can see, the yellow is going on smooth. We're doing long, steady passes across the entire roof panel.
All right, guys, so we're finally laying down the yellow in the door jambs. You want to make sure you get full coverage in all these tight crevices. We're looking at the wet coverage now. See how the light drags across the surface? We're checking this corner closely for any signs of dry spray. All right, guys, now we add the hardener to the clear coat. Make sure you mix it thoroughly for about 60 seconds. Now for the moment of truth, the clear coat. We're going 2 wet coats over the yellow, aiming for that mirror finish. All right guys, moment of truth. Let's see how this yellow looks. Just running my hand over this, and it is perfectly smooth. Check that out. This yellow looks incredible under the lights. I'm using the orange cutting pad here with the heavy duty compound. Just a small squeeze is all it takes.
This is where the magic happens. Just gliding the buffer over the paint and watching the oxidation disappear.
First step is getting a precise measurement of the crankshaft journals. We'll use the micrometer and check the tolerance. After cleaning, we install the main bearing shells and apply assembly lube. Then it's time to carefully lower the crankshaft and install the main caps. And listen for the click. There it is. That's the correct torque on the main bearing caps. Always make sure you hear that. Whew, okay, that's it. We finally got the head seated properly. We're using the feeler gauges to check the valve clearances. As you can see, this one slides right in, indicating it's within tolerance. See how that gold pops? We're doing nice, even sweeps across the surface. This is coat number 1, looking good. Now for the satisfying part. We're using the torque wrench set to 15 foot-pounds, securing these down evenly to prevent any leaks.
So as you can see in this time lapse, we're putting the carbs back together. Making sure all the gaskets are seated properly is key to avoid any vacuum leaks later on.
All right, we're installing the new headers now. Getting the bolt started by hand, then we hit it with the pneumatic ratchet to secure everything in place. We'll speed through the rest of the wiring install. Making sure they click into place is crucial. Looks good, another step closer to getting her running. So we're blasting the rust off these control arms. The cabinet gets loud, but as you can see in the time lapse, it does a perfect job getting down to the bare metal. After a good shake, apply the chassis paint in smooth, overlapping passes. You want full coverage, especially on these rusty spots. And just like that, the new bushing slides right into the control arm. So the seals came out easy enough. Clean up the groove, pop in the new seal, and carefully press in the piston. That's one caliper rebuilt and ready to go back on the car. All right guys, welcome back. Today we're diving into the rear differential. Getting these gears shimmed correctly is crucial before we seal up the housing and torque everything. We're lifting the suspension cage now. It's heavy, but once we get these mounting points aligned, we can zap the bolts in. All right guys, we're putting the subframe back in. Got the first bolt tightened down with the impact wrench. Now moving on to the second one. We're using the impact wrench to secure the lower bolt. And that should do it, one side done. All right guys, moment of truth. Let's see if this V8 slots right into place before we bolt it down. We're connecting the drive shaft to the transmission mount now. Just gotta get these bolts tightened down with the air wrench and we're good to go. So we're just feeding the new harness through the firewall now. Make sure it clicks into place and then secure it with a zip tie like this. Now that the blue wire is in, we'll test the connection to make sure it's secure before moving on to the power source. After spraying the adhesive, we carefully lay the carpet, then use the seam roller to really press it down and ensure a tight fit around the edges. Now for the dashboard prep. I'm using this industrial adhesive to secure the structure. A nice even bead is crucial here. We're using the black vinyl wrap here, stretching it tight and then smoothing out the edges with the squeegee to make sure there are no bubbles. So the next step is getting this beautiful mahogany wheel seated. Takes a bit of wiggling, then grab the socket. We'll speed this part up, but you want to make sure it's snug. All right guys, welcome back. We're finally tackling the seat frames today. As you can see, they were pretty rough, but with a little cleanup and the new hardware, they're looking solid. Installing this new high-density foam takes some muscle, but it's crucial for the final shape. Once the old covers are off, we slide the new leather on. It's a tight fit, but the final result is definitely worth the effort. Watch closely as the steam hits the leather. It's crucial to move slowly to avoid water stains. Look at that difference. We're getting close now. Feed the boot over the shifter like this, and listen for that satisfying click when it locks in. After getting the panel aligned, we just push the clips in like this, and finally the window crank snaps right into place. Using the specialized hook tool here to guide the chrome strip into the groove.
It takes a bit of pressure to get it seated properly. With the sealant applied, we carefully maneuver the heavy glass into position. A firm press around the perimeter ensures a watertight seal before the trim goes on.
So once you get the housing seated, just connect the wiring harness back here. Then it's just a matter of tightening the retaining ring and you're all set. All right guys, so next up is the front turn signals. Just pop the new lens in, connect the wire harness, and screw it down. Looks much better than the old cracked one.
We're rolling the impact wrench to tighten these bolts down fast. Just a few zips and this new chrome bumper is sitting solid.
All right, the key here is getting this perfectly flush before we tighten the bolts. Now for the ratchet. All right, that's the driver's side mirror secured. Just like that, we're one step closer to getting her back on the road. Looks good. Okay, the machine just finished its cycle. It's calling for a 1/4 ounce right here on the outer lip. Let's get that clipped on. And there she goes. That's the moment of truth right there. Feels good to have it back on the ground. Now for the coolant flush. We're using the traditional green stuff here, just letting it trickle in nice and slow to avoid any air bubbles. Make sure the positive is secure before moving to the negative. You might get a small arc like that, which is fine, just tighten.
That is exactly what we wanted to hear. Smooth as silk.
And that's it, listen to that click. The hood is officially latched and we are ready for the next step. All right guys, check this out. The steering on this 72 Camino is finally dialed in. Handles these curves like a dream now. And here she is, the finished Series 1 E-Type. It took a lot of work, but driving her down this street makes it all worth it. Listen to that engine purr. It handles like a dream. All that hard work really paid off. All right guys, check it out. Oil pressure is holding steady right at 50 PSI. The temp gauge is perfect too.
We did it. The first drive of the restored Jag. I couldn't be happier with how she handles.
And here it is, finally finished. We put so much work into this paint job, especially getting the alignment just right. I couldn't be happier with the result. After countless hours, the Series 1 E-Type is finally complete. Look at that gloss. We couldn't be happier with how this turned out. All right, everyone, that wraps up the restoration. Thanks for watching and supporting the channel. See you on the next build.